What is up, guys? It is Styx here, and today I'm going to be going over a build that should be amazing for Festival of the Lost and just general high-end PvE Titan play. Before we get into the build, consider subscribing to the channel. It's the best metric to let me know what kinds of content people are really liking enough that they want to stick around. This build will be making use of Syntheseps, which is an exotic that if you aren't familiar with it, it increases your melee and super damage, as well as improving some handling and reload speed, but we are really coming here for the melee and super damage. We will combine this with the Behemoth Titan Stasis subclass, and for a general ability overview, we have the super, which is Glacial Quake. It's a standard roaming Titan super. You run around, you do slams, you hit things, basically. However, the damage on it is very well increased, and it works really well with one of our aspects, so that's good to keep in mind for later. For our barricade, I recommend Rally Barricade. It's very nice for the general effects that it applies to your weapons, as well as drawing hostile fire when you stand behind it. I personally use the Catapult lift. You can use whatever lift you want, though. I highly recommend Glacier Grenade. This will also be something that I will be able to explain to you a bit better, but it basically just puts out a wall of crystals, and we are going to want to be using this in order to break those crystals for things like explosions. First aspect is Howl of the Storm. This one was recently buffed. As of right now, while sliding, you can activate your charged melee to launch a wave of stasis energy, which freezes combatants, slows players, and creates stasis crystals. In addition, it now gives you an additional melee charge. This is going to be the crux of this build. You can use this ability while you are in your super, so definitely do that. I'll explain that more when I go into the general gameplay loop though. For our second aspect, I'm going with Tectonic Harvest. Shattering a stasis crystal or frozen target creates a stasis shard. This shard grants you melee energy, and while Tectonic Harvest is equipped, picking up stasis shards also gives you frost armor. Super useful, and this is going to combine really well with all of our other stuff here. As I explained before, Glacier Grenade, this allows you to create more crystals, allows you to basically use your grenade to generate more melee energy. In addition, the crystals that our own melee makes due to Howl of the Storm also give melee energy because of the stasis shards. For fragments, I recommend Whisper of Conduction. This gives a nice increase to your super, but also allows stasis shards to track to your position. Nice little quality of life thing. We have Whisper of Rhyme, so that your frost armor has an increased duration and the maximum stacks increase. Whisper of Fissures, which increases the damage and size of the burst of stasis whenever you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. And Whisper of Hunger, which increases the melee energy gained from picking up stasis shards. This one chunks your melee quite a bit, but we can recover from that. Let's look at our stat distribution and what mods we want. I highly recommend trying to push your melee as high as possible. Then after that, you push your super as high as possible. That way you are basically benefiting from the damage boosts as well as the recovery boosts, of course, of both of these abilities. Everything else from that point is pretty much preference based. I think I would personally go with more grenade for more of the crystal generation. For your armor mods, I highly recommend running as many super fonts and melee fonts as you need to reach your goals. I also ran a harmonic siphon in my helmet to generate more orbs. Damage resistance is based on whatever content you're doing. For your legs, I recommend Absolution and Invigoration. The orbs that we generate will give us more melee and all-round ability energy. In addition to that, the stacks on stacks will make it so that each orb of power gives us an additional stack of armor charge. This makes it so now we're getting 2 stacks per pickup. On the class item, I recommend running Outreach with Reaper and Time Dilation. Outreach makes it so that anytime we use our barricade, we have a reduced melee cooldown, always nice. Reaper, also when using our barricade, our next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power, extra orb generation, and the time dilation makes our armor charge last longer, which will make the super and melee fonts significantly more impactful. For your seasonal artifact mods, I recommend running whatever weapon mods that make sense for you based on what you're running. Flame, Fiber, and Freeze, which if you prefer to not use a full stasis loadout and instead want to slap on something solar to mix in there, you can run that with this setup, and it will still allow you to use one mod slot to have both solar and stasis siphon. One with Frost, while Frost armor is active, your stasis weapons will gain increased reload and stability. This one's just really nice for the gameplay feel and stacks well with what we're already doing. Fever and Chill to generate more frost armor using stasis, or a way to give yourself radiant if you are using a solar weapon. Frost Renewal, while you have frost armor, taking critical damage will freeze everything around you and grant you and nearby allies extra frost armor. Huge synergy, and it's a really nice buff for your teammates, especially in the current season. Elemental Daze, stunning a champion with an elemental weapon creates an elementally aligned explosion, applying a matching elemental debuff to them and nearby targets. More ways to generate slow, basically. Shoulder to Shoulder, dealing sustained precision damage against combatants while near 2 or more allies, grants you damage resistance, always extremely useful. Elemental Coalescence, defeating targets has a chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super element, basically a stasis shard. More stasis shard generation is always good. We have Shield Crush, which while you are having Frost Armor, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage, and if you are running a setup that gives you Radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage as well. Elemental Overdrive, picking up an elemental pickup, or Tangle, grants increased damage to weapons of the same element. This is why I'm personally going to be running all 3 stasis weapons, because I just want to amp the damage up on those as much as possible. For these specific weapons I'm personally picking, as well as any alternatives if you so choose, we have Tenacious Mastery as my primary weapon. I'm running it with Deconstruct and Chill Clip. That's because I think this role is really fun and satisfying to use. I think some other options people have mentioned are something like the Lionfish Fusion Rifle. I imagine a Deliverance would still do really well. It still has Chill Clip and all of that. There's Area Denial Frames. Basically, you want some kind of stasis weapon, and specifically one that has Chill Clip on it. I think Solemn Remembrance would also be really nice because it has Headstone. Headstone's another really good one. So run something along those lines. For my second slot, I think there's really 2 options, one of which is very easy to get, and the other one is also very easy to get, assuming you own Edge of Fate, but if you don't, one of these was available during Solstice. So Graviton Spike is the Edge of Fate one, which is an exotic that basically allows you to turn it into a 120 stasis hand cannon at will. This makes it so you can run all 3 stasis weapons. If you want, you can still switch between the 2, and I still do here and there, but I like to mostly use it as the 120 version. That way I'm running triple stasis. The other option is a Yurtide Apex. I highly recommend running it with something like either Heal Clip or Attrition Orbs and Incandescent. Incandescent works really well with all of the explosions and the slows and all of this in order to just generate a ton of debuffs on enemies and cause a really good amount of damage and ad clear. Now, if you're running Graviton Spike like I am for this setup, I recommend the Submersion Crossbow. This rolls with Impulse Amplifier and Chill Clip. Yes, I inserted it into this build and also ran this build specifically so I had a reason to use this roll. It absolutely slaps. If you don't have it, however, or if you just want to run 2 legendaries in your other slots, Tractor Cannon works extremely well in this setup, as it does on any other Titan melee build. You chuck it on, you use it on an enemy, it weakens them, you hit them with your big slide, boom, big damage. Speaking of which, let's get into the rotation that I'm going to be expecting from you guys. So when you come up on something like a group of ads or a big enemy or something of that sort, you want to use your grenade, generate as many of those crystals as possible. You want to slide an uppercut potentially 2 times in a row, and then you can destroy the crystals with all of your weapons because you are running super big mega stasis whatever, or you're running like the incandescent setup. And so you can just run around breaking your crystals, you get the stasis shards that are pulled into you, and then you can perform more uppercuts with your melees and break more crystals and do it again and again and again. Anytime your super comes up, you can use it pretty much at will because all you're going to be doing during it is you're going to be slamming to generate more crystals, you're going to be using your melee slide still, and it's just going to do even more damage. The actual uppercut itself here actually does a fair amount of damage. Anytime you're up against a tankier enemy and you're using the tractor cannon setup, you can pop a tractor cannon on it and then basically do the same setup where you chuck your grenade down, you slide to the side a little bit, and then uppercut up into the enemy, and it does a really good amount of damage, genuinely. So if this is a build and you're like, hey, I want a different flavor of melee Titan, this is something that I think might be your jam, especially if you like a Tempest Strike Hunter kind of playstyle. It's very similar to that. For general armor sets, I would say I'm currently running Last Discipline 4-piece, and I'm having a pretty good time with the Orbs of Power granting special ammo progress so that I can keep the special ammo up on my Tenacious. In addition to that, Final Blows with my Graviton Spike will give my Graviton Spike increased reload speed, also really nice because reload is something that it's not amazing at in the 120 mode at least. I think if you were really min-maxing though, I think the Bushido set, like with most things, is really good, something like that, or the Trial set, something along those lines. If you enjoyed this video, I have a whole playlist on Destiny 2 builds. If you want any of those revamped, or if you want a specific concept, let me know in the comments, and I can try and fulfill that for you. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.